Okay, so we're going to be here for a bit together, unless I drive you out. So we think we're here, we remind ourselves, put ourselves in the right direction. We're here to listen to Buddhist teachings, Buddhist views, Buddhist worldview actually, Buddhist view of the universe, how it works, who we are, what our job is, why there's suffering, why there's happiness, blah, blah, blah. And the way to listen to it is not just as interesting philosophy to fill our heads, which is how we think of philosophy, but it's it's like recipes. It's got to be recipes. Tools. That's the way to think. It doesn't mean you have to take the tools. It doesn't mean you have to use the tools. You're the boss, but it's given as advice. So hear it this way makes it very powerful. It makes a difference. So okay. So what are the tools for? Well, to help us develop what for the Buddha is our pretty incredible potential. And we'll go into this, of course. To be less neurotic, less depressed, less ridiculous, more wise, more kind, more compassionate. Bottom line. So that's for our sake and the sake of others. Thinking this way, very simply. Very simply. So we'll sing our little prayer. You haven't got prayer books, have you? Never mind. If you know the prayer, fine. You have got. Have you got a prayer book there? Just in case people want. We're not going to say many prayers, I promise. But let's give me one so I can see what you've got there. I was just only one or two prayers we'll say. If you want to join in, you're very welcome. Okay. We'll do the Heart Sutra sometimes. We can do that. In fact, let's do the Heart Sutra. Page 5. Very auspicious. So we will imagine, okay, Buddha gave his teachings in various ways. Start again. Something else first. Okay, go to page 7 first, and we'll do the little prayer of refuge and bodhicitta, expressing our aspiration for doing the teachings. The bottom page, the bottom left, page 7, the bottom prayer, and then we can go to page 5 and do the Heart Sutra. Okay. Sangye charam sangye charam la jamchu badu dagni kyapsu chi. You can join in. I forgot. Dagi Chenyen Gipa Sanam Ki Drola Panche Sange Drupa Shog Sange Charan Soge Chagnamla Jancho Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chenyen Gipa Sanam Ki Drola Panche Sange Drupa Shog Sange Charan Soge Chagnamla Jancho Badu Dagni Kyapsuchi Dagi Chenyen Gipa Sanam Ki Drola Panche Sange Drupa Shog. So page 5, what we can do is imagine we're on Vulture Peak, this little place out of Rajgir in India, used to be one of the time of the Buddha. So he gave many of his teachings. And so he gave his teachings in different ways apparently. And one day was he'd sit there in meditation, and then he'd kind of channel his thoughts into the minds and the mouths of his disciples, and they gave the talk. That was Buddha's teachings, and Heart Sutra is one of those. So what's happening, he's sitting in meditation, and then Shariputra, and then Avalokitesvara, actually as a 10th level bodhisattva, as a human being, we're having a conversation, having a chat about, how things exist, about emptiness, which we'll talk about. So we imagine that we're there, and as it says here, you're a great host of monks and great host of bodhisattvas. Well, if you've been there, you know it's like a miniature place, tiny. So I wondered where they all fit. So I remember I said to Geshe Dampa, our teacher at our centre in San Francisco, I said, where they all fit? He said, where they all sit? He said, in the sky. What do you think? So we visualise, we can be in the sky too, if you like. There, we're imagining, as we say these words, and we're thinking, and have the blessing of Buddha's words, so we can realise ultimately, finally, how things exist. Cut the usual the rubbish and become a Buddha. So you can think about it and contemplate, or you can recite with me. I prostrate to the Arya triple gem. Thus did I hear at one time. The Bhagavan was dwelling on mass of Vulture's mountain in Rajagriha, together with a great community of monks and a great community of bodhisattvas. At that time, the Bhagavan was absorbed in the concentration on the categories of phenomena called profound perception. Also at that time, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Arya Avalokitesvara, looked upon the very practice of the profound perfection of wisdom and beheld those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Then through the power of Buddha, the Venerable Shariputra said this to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Arya Avalokitesvara: how should any son of the lineage train who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom? He said that, and the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Arya Avalokitesvara, said this to the Venerable Shariputra: Shariputra, any son of the lineage or daughter of the lineage who wishes to practice the activity of the profound perfection of wisdom should look upon it like this, correctly and repeatedly, beholding those five aggregates also as empty of inherent nature. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is not other than form is also not other than emptiness. In the same way, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, likewise, all phenomena are emptiness, without characteristic, unproduced, unceased, stainless, not without stain, not deficient, not fulfilled. Shariputra, therefore, in emptiness is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, no consciousness, no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mind, no visual form, no sound, no odour, no taste, no object of touch, and no phenomenon. There's no I element and so on, up to and including no mind element and no mental consciousness element. There's no ignorance, no extinction of ignorance, and so on, up to and including no aging of death and no extinction of aging and death. Similarly, there's no suffering, origination, cessation, and path. There's no exalted wisdom, no attainment, and also no non-attainment. Shariputra, therefore, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely on and dwell in the perfection of wisdom, the mind without obscuration and without fear. Having completely passed beyond error, they reach the end point of nirvana. All the Buddhas who dwell in the three times also manifestly, completely awaken to unsurpassable, perfect, complete enlightenment in reliance on the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, the mantra of the perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the mantra equal to the unequaled, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, should be known as truth, since it's not false. The mantra of the perfection of wisdom is declared: Ta ta om gate gate para samgate bodhi swaha. Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, should train in the profound perfection of wisdom like that. Then the Bhagavan arose from that concentration and commended the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Arya Avalokitesvara, saying, well said, son of the lineage, it is like that. It is like that. One should practice the profound perfection of wisdom just as you have indicated. Even the Tathagatas rejoice. The Bhagavan, having thus spoken, the Venerable Shariputra, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva, Arya Avalokitesvara, and those surrounding in their entirety, along with the world of gods, humans, asuras, and Gandharvas, were overjoyed and highly praised that spoken by the Bhagavan. So also it's auspicious to offer a mandala, as they say. It's this thinking very simply, we're imagining piling up all the gorgeous things of the universe, all the objects of the senses that make people happy, basically, piling them all up and offering them to the Buddha as a request for the teachings. So imagining Buddha's here, and we're offering that. If you know the prayer, then great. And it's on page 7 again, if you want to say it. The top one. Saji perki jugshin metog chami rabinji nide genpadi sangye jindu nite wagi tropan namjad jina chopashok. And now we imagine Buddha very happily accepting our offering. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niyatayami. The meaning of a meaningful life, okay? Well, it's actually expressed perfectly in the word Buddha. And the word Buddha tells us exactly, therefore, the methodology, so it's all explained right there. So the word Buddha, I'm the same as the Tibetan equivalent, Sangye. The first syllable implies the eradication, the utter eradication from our minds of all ego, all fears, all neuroses, or attachment, or anger, depression, all the other dramas. So right there, already, it's so shocking we can't even hear it. Which is why we put it into the realm of religion instead of psychology, you know. That's the first thing. The Buddha has found, from his own experience, that he has accomplished, and so then presents, here's the method of how to do it. But not only that, Gye, Sangye, Buddha, 7th syllable implies the development to perfection, literally, of all the other stuff in our mind. Compassion, wisdom, love, kindness, intelligence, joy, blah, blah, you know. We know these words intimately. They're so simple. This is the stuff of Buddhist psychology. This is the stuff of Buddhist practice. So that's what Buddha is saying. That's the meaning of the word Buddha. It's implied, you know, by those words. Those syllables imply that. So that's the end result. That's what Buddha says he's accomplished. And he says, here's what I did to do it. Over to you, babies. Up to you if you'd like to achieve the same thing. That's it. So the meaning of life, then, is to, you know, get rid of the rubbish and grow the goodness. That's it. Speaking very simply. That's it. So obviously if that's the end result, and he's stating that, like if I show you the chocolate cake, that's the result. Obviously I have a recipe. That's how come I got it. So the same here for the Buddha. It's very simple. The idea is so simple. So all the Buddha's teachings, all his philosophy, his metaphysics, the psychology, these are all the methods, the methodology, the stuff that Buddha himself did to get that result. That's the point. And he says, over to you, this is what I did, and if you want to accomplish that, you follow my steps. And then as the Dalai Lama tells us, especially in the West, you know, if you do what Buddha says, step by step by step, applying it, practicing it, and you get to a particular point where you actually discover from your own experience that what he says is wrong, then you must reject him. Very simple. And so what's implied here is the whole approach of being a Buddhist. I mean, we vaguely kind of know, yeah, like Buddha's not a creator, yeah, okay, we know that, but we don't join the dots, we don't get the real implication of it, we don't think it through, and it's really necessary to do so, because it gives us the entire approach of being a Buddhist. We can see there's so much similarity. There's so much in common we all have. All the different realms of existence, all the different views, philosophies, psychologies, religions have so much in common. A good communist, a good Muslim, and a good Buddhist, if they didn't open their mouths but just acted, they'd all look the same. They'd be kind, loving, wise, wouldn't lie, wouldn't steal, you know. There's so much in common. But there's some fundamental differences. And I think it's really crucial for us to remind ourselves continuously, even if we are Buddhists, what those differences are, because it implies what practice is. And that difference is that Buddha does not assert a creator. If we think religion in the world, default assumption, therefore it's a creator. And it's something therefore you believe in, and that's totally appropriate. I was brought up a Catholic, you know. That means I was the handiwork of God, a creator, a superior being, all-knowing, all-wise, all-compassionate, who created the universe, created the laws, created everything. And if that's how it is, and that's perfectly correct, then I must do what God says. And that's what a sin is, by definition. I always quote this, always. My Jesuit priest friend, when I asked him, what is a sin? He said, by definition, a sin, in other words, a negative action, a naughty thing, is doing what God said not to do. That fits perfectly if you posit a creator. That's completely correct. And then, of course, if you do something wrong, you must confess it to God, and then God fixes you by forgiving you. I'm not criticizing any of this. That is the philosophy. That is not Buddha's philosophy. In fact, Buddha has found from his own experience that creator is a misconception. He's not being rude. That's what he's found. We don't need creating. He says we do fine making our own mess, and we can do fine making our own goodness as well. We're the boss, not Buddha. There's no concept of create at all. Therefore, there's no concept of punishment and reward, which is the usual dualistic view we have of religion, have of morality and ethics. Do what someone says, whether it's mummy, daddy, the judge, the police, or vaguely some they out there, or God. And if you're naughty, you get punished, or if you get caught, you get punished, and if you're good, you get rewarded. That whole view is exactly the view we have in our minds, and that's the philosophical view of ego, Buddha says. It's a misconception, he says. It's a misconception. We've made it up. That's quite intense. The similarities are that Buddha would assert the same qualities. You know, I gave a talk a few years ago at the Catholic University in Melbourne, and I had 20 minutes to talk, and I didn't know what I was going to talk about till I got there. So I looked up the Merriam-Webster dictionary for a definition of God. And it said 3 essential qualities: infinite wisdom, infinite compassion, and infinite power. Well, they're exactly the qualities of a Buddha. So you can see there are similarities, incredible similarities. But the massive difference is the job of that being is not only one of them, and the job of that being is to make everybody else. That's the Christian view, the Muslim view, the creator view. No concept like that in Buddhism. Buddha says we can all become one of those. We have the potential of every being naturally. That's the radical difference. And the job is not to create. We don't need creating. So what role? Who's Buddha then? Who is he? He's not an alternative to a creator. He's more like a doctor. Now, with the view of a creator, the one of punishment and reward, in doing what God said, then if our doctor, we go to the doctor and she says, don't smoke with me, you might get cancer. You don't say, who do you think you are? How dare you say you'll punish me if I smoke? We know we don't. We know that's a joke. We would never say that. We know she's a wise person who, from her own experience, has observed that cancer can be caused by smoking cigarettes. So she gives us advice. That's Buddha. But it really takes us time to hear that, because we hear it in the other way. We hear it like he's a punisher. So when he says don't kill, and you might go to the lower realms, we say, who do you think you are? How dare he say that? Well, he's observing what he's seeing as true. And he's not sending you there. The doctor doesn't give you cancer. She's observed that can be a natural result of your own actions. That's how Buddha talks. But this really takes us time to hear, because we have deep in our bones this philosophical view. It's the view of ego grasping. It's the view of the main delusion, the dualistic view. We created it. So it takes a while to hear this concept. And that's the whole business of karma, which we'll talk about. So with that view, how ridiculous it would be if you go home and you see your doctor's not there, so out come the Marlboros, oh, I won't get cancer, she doesn't see me. We'd laugh at that. Well, that's how we think of religion. Buddha does not talk that way. He does not talk that way. He's not the doctor. He's an advisor. He'll forgive you, but it's not his job. So you don't go to your doctor, please forgive me for smoking, which means you get stop cancer. No. She'll forgive you, but you've got to still stop smoking. You've got to do the job, Buddha's like that. It's a massive difference, I swear to you. Your whole relationship is massively different because of that, because you realise you're the boss. You're the boss. And when you're the boss, you're happy to follow someone's advice. You're not going to do it because they're going to reward you. You do it because it's common sense, because you trust their knowledge, just like your doctor. It's a very different relationship. But we've got to cultivate that. It doesn't come naturally. So Buddha's not a creator. Doesn't posit. We don't need creating. His whole way of presenting is quite different. Therefore he's not a punisher, therefore he's not a rewarder. And there's no punishment or reward in that sense, which implies punisher and rewarder. Buddha does not have that view at all. We do it to ourselves, he says. All the happiness is created by our own selves, and our suffering is created by our own selves. So the whole approach to that is a very different one. It's a sense of responsibility, of accountability, of growing up. And that implies, as we're going to talk, as we get more and more of that view, that lessens attachment and lessens anger and lessens self-pity and lessens all the rubbish. Because they are all symptoms of this misconception of an ego, a separate ego, poor self-pity me. I mean, she calls ego self-pity me, Sounds kind of cruel. But the more we look into it, the more I recognise, we'll see it, We're the boss. So which part of us becomes a Buddha, a Sangye, our mind? And Buddha that's the other difference, he only asserts a mind. There's no equivalent of a spirit or a soul. There's no kind of third component, Buddha used the word mind or consciousness, and these cover all aspects of ourselves that aren't our body. Thoughts, feelings, emotions, neuroses, psychosis, love, compassion, bliss, intelligence, unconscious, subconscious, instinct, intuition, the entire spectrum of our inner being. That's our mind. So it's a radically different use of the word. It's not the brain. That's a shock to us. He's not arguing we don't have a brain. He's not saying don't become a neuroscientist. And that's why these last years, these amazing conversations between the Dalai Lama and his mob and the neuroscientists and their mob, really showing there's no contradiction. They're separate models, but there's so much you can do to bring them together. And the way I put it simply is that the brain, what goes on in the brain is an indicator of what's going on in the consciousness. It's like a physical indicator. That's the way I put it. And of course, the crucial point for the Buddha, though, that only goes so far, because the brain is physical, and the grosser level of our consciousness, the way they talk in Tantra, we have gross consciousness, subtle consciousness, and extremely subtle consciousness. Well, the grosser level of consciousness does indeed depend upon a decent working brain. But we have these subtle levels of mind, and we don't even assert those. We don't posit those at all in our culture. So this is where we put it into the religion bracket, and belief, you know. But this is easily kind of identifiable and findable, that we have subtle levels. There's amazing Hindus before the Buddha, you know. There's an incredible body of knowledge and philosophy and psychology and metaphysics existing in India, highly developed, well before the Buddha. As His Holiness said, it was these amazing Indians more than 3,000 years ago who were the ones who began the investigation of the nature of self. But we in our kind of, you know, Eurocentric, Judeo-Christian, European basically, views. What do we know about India? Absolutely nothing. Even us Buddhists know nothing about India, you know. And what was existing before the Buddha. Unbelievable system, unbelievable worldview, incredibly developed, sophisticated, unbelievable, sophisticated views of the mind. And where did it all come from? The investigation of these amazing great yogis before the Buddha. They're the ones who created this technique called symbol-pointed concentration, shamatha, one of the key techniques in Buddhism. He happily took it from the Hindus when he diverged in his own direction. This incredibly sophisticated psychological skill that enables us to plumb the depths of our mind, to go beyond the grosser level, to access these more subtle levels of our consciousness. And in long term, to do the job of being a Buddha, you've got to get to that. You've got to get to that. Not possible to do this job with the grosser level of mind. It's just the tip of the iceberg. So Buddha's asserting these subtle levels of consciousness. And that's our job. Actually, when we become a Buddhist, when we really become a Buddhist, seriously a Buddhist, that's the job of being a Buddhist, as Lama Yeshe says. Be your own therapist. It's not kidding, you know. Using the skill of concentration, shamatha, or to whatever degree that we can accomplish, to become intimately familiar with the workings of our own mind. Tibetan's point here, you know, and to unpack and unravel. So to do what? Why? So we can recognize and identify and then begin to distinguish between the neuroses and the goodness. These parts of our mind, that we want to get rid of the rubbish and grow the goodness. That's the end result. So that's the job, that implies the job of a Buddhist, to identify, to distinguish between ego grasping, attachment, anger, all the dramas, and love, compassion, wisdom, and all those. That's the key job of being a Buddhist. And you can't do that at the grossest. We can start at the grossest level, but to really do it at the most sophisticated level we've got to get to the subtle level of our mind. We've got to accomplish this shamatha. Long term, eventually, we must. Lama Yeshe talks about that in his marvellous new book, Mahamudra. We'll read from it this weekend. It's very blissful. And the crucial point about our mind, it's got these subtle levels, it's got this marvellous potential, and it's not the handiwork of anybody else. This is the point. Big shock. For Christians or Muslims, God gave us a soul. We're the invention of God. If we're philosophical materialists, we're the invention of mummy and daddy. That is the view, and that view prevails on our planet. It's kind of the top dog view now. You know, religion's got really low level, isn't it? Religion's kind of boring now. We don't give it much credibility, but the top dogs are the scientists. Philosophical materialism. I'm not complaining. And we're the handiwork of mummy and daddy. We know that. We take that as a given. It's so ingrained in our being to assume I am the way I am because mummy and daddy made me, because I've got this and my genes and my DNA and my blah, 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 go back to mummy, daddy, grandma, grandpa and the monkeys, isn't it? That's how we think. That's our view. I'm not criticising. I'm just stating that's the philosophical view. That's not Buddha's. There's wonderful agreements on things. That's why the Dalai Lama is so kind and compassionate and wise and humble. Not sitting in his ivory tower with his snotty nose thinking he knows everything. He comes, he joins us and discusses all these views and brings people together. It's so amazing. And now people are learning. Western science are now learning about these amazing views that have been around for thousands of years. I mean, we thought it was Freud that invented the self 100 years ago. How ridiculous. These Indians have been at it for thousands of years. So with the Buddha, and I said about need creating, Mummy and Daddy gave us a body, no probs. That's clear. But we've got to think this through because our assumptions are so ingrained because we've learned it and taken it for granted since we're born, and all our psychology and all our neuroscience are based on these assumptions, that our mind is the brain, and that comes from Mummy and Daddy, and the brain does come from Mummy and Daddy, but our mind doesn't. That's the crucial point. So that means thinking, because we conflate these two, don't we, utterly and completely. It takes a while to think through, to try and be reasonable what Buddha's saying, not just to reject it out of hand, and not just to blindly believe it, but to think it through logically, which is what the Dalai Lama's been doing with all the scientists. It's amazing. And they're all delighted. There's so many changes coming in the materialist views now because of this engagement with the Dalai Lama, hearing the Indian views, the Buddhist views, Consciousness, by definition, is not physical. It's got far more subtle levels, and it's not the handiwork of Mummy and Daddy. In other words, we didn't begin in our womb, our mummy's womb. It's the biggest shock to us. If we're Christian or materialist, the one thing we do agree on, we began in our mother's womb, not for the Buddha. The package called Robina, the package of body and mind labelled Robina, that package, the bits and pieces came together, but the bits and pieces came from before. The bits and pieces of body went back to Mummy, Daddy, monkeys. The bits and pieces of mind went back to Robina's consciousness. It's my own personal river of mental moments. A very different view, an outrageously different view, a hugely different view. And that's the absolute basis of the whole Buddhist worldview. If this can be proven to be wrong by experience, then the whole of Buddhism will collapse into a heap of absurdity. That's a fact. So that's why it's up to us then. We can't prove it overnight. You can't prove relativity overnight. So you take it as your hypothesis. It's the best way to think about it. And that's how we're going to be doing the weekend, taking these views as a hypothesis. So the point about it is philosophy. This is philosophy, right? It's a view of the world. It's not just to keep it in the head. That's the big difference. In our culture, in the West, philosophy is kind of interesting, but we don't trust it as a rigorous science. You don't put philosophy into practice. We think philosophy is all these interesting views you keep in your head and you kind of ponder the meaning of things, but it doesn't ever filter into practice. It's a really major point. Well, that's not the Buddhist view. In the same way you wouldn't just learn the theory about a cake, you'd have to make the cake. In the same way you don't just learn musical theory, you have to play the piano. Well, to have theories about the universe, about the mind, about who we are, and not to practice it is like demented. Just stuffing your head full of rubbish. What for? So this is where the Buddhist view, you could say that Buddhism is definitely a method of getting happy and stopping suffering. It is absolutely a presentation of good ethics, and it absolutely, finally, and they all come together, is a method of getting rid of ignorance and developing wisdom. You could absolutely say, and that's the key one. But that's interesting, we understand wisdom in our culture, but we think of a very wise scientist or a genius mathematician or a genius artist. We think of that person, that's wisdom. But we don't relate it to ethics. That person can go home and beat up their husband. We don't think it matters. We don't see the relationship between wisdom and ethics. In Buddhism, it's a completely integrated view. It's very interesting to think like this. So the meaning of the meaningful life. A meaningful life is to develop two wings of the bird, wisdom and compassion. So if you like, Sangye, Buddha, Sang, Bud is the wisdom wing, ridding the mind of all the rubbish. And the consequences of that alone, forget the second wing, are you'd be this sublime, amazing, blissful, radiant, clear, non-egotistical, non-angry, non-attached, non-jealous, non-neurotic, extraordinary human being. Blow your mind if you realise how marvellous you'd be just by getting rid of the rubbish. That's the wisdom wing. You'd see things as they exist. You'd be out of all the rubbish. You'd be radiant, clear, wise. But that's not enough. You can do more. You can do the compassion wing, because once you've done the job yourself, you realise, oh my God, look at the world, we're all in the same boat. And you're unable to bear the suffering, so then you want to do even more. You add the compassion wing, you add bucket loads of love, compassion, culminating in bodhicitta, this outrageous aspiration based on incredible love and compassion that recognises the suffering of all beings, because you recognise your own and got rid of it. You think, how could I possibly leave them all behind? It's impossible. Like a mother to her child. I use the example. She knows it's her job. Her kid's drowning. She's got compassion. But she doesn't sit on the beach wondering who's going to save her kid. She's in that water in a second, whether she swims or not. That's great compassion. That's the unique characteristic of the Bodhisattva. As His Holiness would sometimes call it, universal responsibility. You know it's your job. It's the job description of a Bodhisattva is to help, based upon wisdom. And you never give up until you perfect it with Buddhahood. So that's the second wing, if you like, and the combination of the two, wisdom and compassion. That's a Buddha. That's our potential. But the nuts and bolts of Buddhism, the philosophy, the psychology, that's in the wisdom wing. You keep doing the job of ridding your mind of the rubbish on the compassion wing, but it's in reference. You're kind of adding to an incredible degree this love and compassion that eventually culminating in bodhicitta. But the wisdom wing is the fundamentals, the basis. That's the nuts and bolts of Buddhist teachings. So there's various ways of presenting it, you know. But the key one is our Buddha's first teaching, the Four Noble Truths. Well, actually, it's the four truths for the noble ones. I don't think the truths are noble, just how they say it. It's the four truths for the noble ones. I don't know what that word in Sanskrit is, but those who realised it, you know. The four facts. I like the word fact. Truth sounds a bit like religion, doesn't it? The four facts for the noble ones. And the framework here is suffering. First one is there is suffering. Second is there are causes. Third is you can get rid of it. And fourth is how to do it. Very practical. This is one way of saying, as I'm saying, of framing the whole of Buddhism in terms of happiness and suffering. But the method of doing it is ethics, but also wisdom. And we'll describe. So one way Buddha says is most natural. You look at the world, you're going to see everybody wants to be happy and nobody wants to suffer. It's kind of evident. Look at the ants, the monkeys, the humans, just look at behaviour. You can introduce it pretty quickly. It's something that drives every living being. And this is what interesting point that Buddha makes. You know, that's our potential. To be free of suffering and to be fully developed in happiness. It's one way of saying it. Another way of putting what a Buddha is. Free of all the suffering, full of all the happiness. So of course we're going to get his definitions of those things, don't we? And that's what we do. So one way of saying the meaning of life is stop suffering and get happiness. And then help others do the same thing. Another way of putting it. Clearly you can't help someone else do it until you've done it yourself. Unless you know the methods yourself. You can't help others. That's clear. Pretty obvious. Okay, so what's suffering? Well, there are three kinds, Buddha says. There are three kinds of suffering, three levels of suffering. Kind of the most obvious, evident, in-your-face one, and he calls it the suffering of suffering. And simply speaking, that's when the bad things happen. We all know you don't want that. You don't have to get taught that. It's just spontaneous. You know. The second one is more tricky and more depressing initially, because it's what we call happiness. The second kind of suffering is what we call happiness. It sounds really depressing. But the Buddha calls it the suffering of change. We'll go into it. The third one we don't even posit, we don't even think about, it's too abstract sounding. He calls it all-pervasive suffering. And we'll discuss that too. But let's look at the obvious one. So he's stating what suffering is. Next one is the causes. So it's obvious, if you want a solution to something, you have to posit, you have to state the problem. You have to first state the problem, then you have to find the causes. And once you find the causes, that implies a solution. I think so. Once you've established the causes of something, that implies a solution. I think so. I think so. Just look at this. Suffering of suffering. Well, see, there's two ways of presenting all this. But from the bigger picture point of view, of the Buddha's analysis of the entirety of samsara, which means suffering sentient beings. Buddha's got this big, big view of there are many levels of sentient beings. Okay, the biggest big picture, as I present from the Indian view, there are formless beings, formed beings, and desire beings. 3 realms of existence, 3 types, 3 levels of sentient beings, all in samsara. So the definition of being in samsara is that you have this root, we're going to go into this root delusion in the mind that is the source of all of it. Once you've cut that, you're out of samsara. As long as you've got this root delusion, we have to go into this to understand it. That's the defining characteristic. You're in samsara or you're out of samsara. When those are out of samsara, you've got levels of them as well. They're called superior beings. All the way from there to the first moment of realizing emptiness up to becoming a Buddha, they're all the superior beings. And the rest of us are ordinary beings. So being in samsara means you've still got this neurosis in the mind, this delusion. We'll go into this. So, okay, the whole of samsara, the bigger picture, is you've got these beings, and this is coming from the Indian experience, these amazing, sophisticated Indians who invented this technique called single point of concentration, which gets you to access the subtle levels of your mind, and their reason, like Buddha's, was to get rid of all the rubbish there. But he would say they didn't go far enough, that's why he diverged in his own direction. So there are these beings who've got such absorption in concentration. They stay there for a long time in this subtle state of mind. There are no grosser levels of their being at all. It's just subtle, the mind at a subtle level of the deepest absorption. Then you've got slightly grosser beings, and they're even called the form beings, and that's already subtle enough too. But as far as Buddhists concerned, they're kind of useless, because you're still in samsara. You've still got the subtle, you've still got the imprint of the ego, you've still got ego grasping, the root delusion that defines you as being in samsara. And eventually the fruits of all that virtue will run out and you'll be back in the miserable lives again because you haven't cut the root of all the problems. So the third lot, the grossest lot, we're in that lot. And that's called the desire realm. And that's a really powerful concept, and we'll be discussing this. Desire is another word for attachment. So in other words, within this there are 6 different, it's like 6 different suburbs, from all in terms of experience along the spectrum of suffering to happiness. So the top suburb, where the best bliss is, they're called the God realms. There's a couple of these, and these are equivalent, you'd say, to what the Muslims call paradise and the Christians call heaven. It's a subtle state of being, and they've got subtle light bodies. We're going to describe this, we'll understand this. This is Buddha's observation as well. And that's it's as far as, and that's in the desire, and that's the top you can get. Utterly state of utter bliss, subtle light body, lasts a long time, and the experiences of utter joy, utter happiness, utter bliss. Then a bit further down the spectrum, you've got humans. Well, clearly we don't have light bodies. Clearly not. We've got these bags of bones. In our minds, conjoined with a walking sewer, basically. A very efficient one. But, it's a really good system, sewage, but that's what it is, isn't it? You ingest something, comes out as caca. The little body works overtime. That's how gross we are. So nevertheless, it's the best of a bad lot, as far as the Buddha is concerned. It's still with a predominance, it's a predominant result of virtue. Then further along, you've got the lower realms, the lousy suburbs, and they get worse as you go. Worse in terms of suffering and best in terms of happiness. It's a spectrum from happiness to suffering in this desire realm. So we've got the 3 of those, and these are all the result of the 3 main delusions. We're going to describe all this, okay? Animals, spirits, and then hell beings. All this spectrum of beings, all trillions. Buddha will say there are trillions upon countless trillions upon countless trillions of mind possessors. The Tibetan word sen-chen, sentient being, mind possessors. Trillions of consciousnesses, trillions of minds, all embodied in one degree or another, and all experiencing in one degree or another suffering and happiness. Buddha says. That's his bigger picture. So we can describe then this first level of suffering from the bigger picture point of view as referring to those suffering realms of existence when the bad things happen. But we can also talk about it, which is what we really understand, is in terms of just this life. So let's stick to this life for the moment, this human life that we have. We can see very clearly we have some experiences that we call suffering, and we have some experiences that we call happiness. So from a bigger picture point of view, happiness is the upper realms and suffering is the lower realms. But here we can talk in the human realm itself, which is we understand. So, in terms of that then, the suffering of suffering is when the bad things happen. The suffering of change is when the good things happen. So the first one we call suffering and try to avoid it, and the second one we call it happiness and we try to get it. The Buddha's got a more nuanced, more subtle presentation. He says, sorry guys, but what you call suffering, what you call happiness, is actually a more subtle level of suffering. Honey-covered razor blade. This is extremely depressing initially. Forget even the third lot. We'll go there later. So understanding these two, and therefore going to the second noble truth, the second fact for the noble ones, understanding the causes of this. This is the nuts and bolts of Buddha's teachings. This is his presentation of suffering and its causes, which implies the solution, that we can get rid of suffering and its causes. That's his point. That's his view. That's what he's saying. Here's my presentation. Here's what I've done. Here, over to you. You want to try it out? Go for you, babe. So, let's look at the second one. What are the causes? So let's just look at the first kind of suffering. Forget the second one first. Let's look at the first one. It's simple. In your face, you know. What are the causes of bad things happening, basically? Because suffering is called when bad things happen. Speak it simply. What are the causes? And why do you want to know the causes? It's really obvious. If you study botany, or like Justin, my nephew, he's here this time again, he's here as well. He's a horticulturist, so he knows the causes of these things. And the only reason he knows the causes is so he can grow more of it. Would that be true? Yes. Mostly, isn't it? That's the reason, isn't it? You want to know the causes of growing things so you can understand how to work with it and how you can grow better things. Would that be right?
Yes.
Roughly speaking, isn't it? I'm sorry to embarrass you. I'm not embarrassing you?
Works.
What?
Works.
No. Okay. But it's logical, isn't it? If you're going to be a botanist or a horticulturist, are they the same?
It's they're parallel disciplines.
One doesn't pervade the other.
You need to know taxonomy to work out how to grow that plant properly, to know where it's from.
What's the first word you said?
Taxonomy.
What's taxonomy mean?
It's categorisation.
I can't hear you.
Categorisation.
Categorisation. Okay, very good. Buddha's good at all that. Except about the mind, that's all. He doesn't know about growing things. Okay, I get you, okay. So we want to know, we know, even the first level, we don't have to think about it. We know we don't like being punched in the nose. We know we don't like being cheated on. We know we don't like being lied to. We know we don't like being hungry. We know we don't like getting sick. It's really in your face obvious. So Buddha's saying, hey guys, you can be free of suffering. We should be paying $1 million to go to a course that will tell us that. Because it means long term, you know. So we have to know what the causes are first. Then we know the solution. So what are the causes? Well, guess what? He says there are two. And they're both in you, babe. I'm sorry. The main causes, there are millions of causes that bring everything together. There are millions of causes for this wee flower. Very pretty, whatever it is. A camellia, isn't it? Is that a camellia? What is it? A camellia. Nice smell though. So there are many causes for a camellia. You can thousands if you start writing an entire novel about just the causes to get a camellia. But we can think of two main causes, two or three. The seed, bit of soil, bit of air, bit of warmth, bit of time. Boom, you get a camellia. But the main cause is the crucial one, you know. You can have delicious earth and lovely sea air, but if you have a seed, you'll never get a camellia. Equally, you have a seed, a camellia, but not have the other conditions, you'll never get a camellia either. So they've got to come together. So there are two main causes. So I can say there are 1,000 causes for why, you know, who's my boyfriend? Justin can't be my boyfriend, it's my nephew. Who's my boyfriend? Has to be, what's his name at the back? What's your name? I forget my boyfriend at the back. What's your name again?
Andrew.
Who? Oh, Andrew. Sorry, I know Andrew from years ago. We sat over there one time. I remember that. He never stopped arguing. Now he's in the back row, all humbled. So Andrew, let's say Andrew, you know. I know perfectly well if I'm miserable. Why are you crying, Robina? Because Andrew punched me. So this is not a joke, you know. We know there's one cause of my suffering. We're very clear in our world, and that's called Andrew. And look at our world, look at our justice system, look at our lives, look at our relationships, look at all the lawyers, look at prisons. It's all about finding who did it to me and then putting them in prison, blaming them. He's the one cause of my suffering. That's it. Buddha says, yes, and he definitely played a role in it, but he's merely a secondary cause. He's like the earth or the water. He ain't the main cause. So this is such a simple point, but so shocking to our ears. Buddha says there are two main causes of my suffering, and they're both inside me. This is the essence of the entire view of Buddhism. The words are unbelievably simple, but because of our own neuroses and our own misconceptions, we just can't hear it, you know. One is called karma, and one is called delusions. So by understanding karma, the entire worldview of karma, and understanding this massive worldview about the mind, these are the nuts and bolts of Buddhism. And by understanding this, we can become a Buddha. And then we can help others do the same. So what's karma and what are delusions? And the only reason we want to hear this is so that we can understand what my suffering now is, why I've got it, and the learning from that is I don't want it again, so I know exactly what to do for the future. That's the point. That's the simple point. That's the simple point. I have to know, you know, that there's pollution in the water. I have to identify the pollution, and then I know how to get rid of it. Until you've identified it exactly, you cannot find the solution. It's so evident. So, what is karma and what are delusions? That's it. That covers everything. So the assumption here, of course, we have to take as a hypothesis a continuity of consciousness. The view of karma is completely the law of the whole universe. All the samsara, all the realms of existence, all sentient beings, all happiness, all suffering. It's that view. It's Buddha's view, and that comes from the Hindus as well. The explanation of what a hell being is, what a God realm being is, what a happy person is, what is suffering, in terms of this life, this moment, or in terms of the whole worldview, both. So it implies continuity of consciousness. And the Creator has nothing to do with it. It's a completely different philosophy. That's got nothing to do with Buddha's view whatsoever. So we're taking as our view here consciousness. Consciousness, mind, and it's mine. It's this river of mental moments that for the Buddha, logically, given the law of cause and effect, has to be beginningless. You cannot find a first moment. Wanting a first moment of anything, a first big bang moment, is literally the product of ego grasping, the root delusion, you know. It's not evident to us, of course. So past actions, basically, karma means action. Karma means action. And the main action is intention, mental action. Everything exists on the tip of the wish for the Buddha, as Lama says. So the Buddha's view is every millisecond of what we think and do and say, every millisecond of what we think and do and say. There's sort of two things. One is nothing goes astray, generally, and things are left as memories, as imprints, as memories in the mind, merely as memories. There's no quality about that. No, it's not qualitative, it's just merely as memories. As one Lama said, it's like we're shooting a movie all day. Everything just gets stored in here. As Lama Zopa said, we're taking photos all day. And we're just storing the imprints in here. And that's how come we can access memory. And eventually, when we get subtle level of mind in meditation, how we can have clairvoyance. It's all there. Everything's stored in the mind as a memory. We can access. The other way, the more qualitative way that the mind works, is this law of karma. That everything we think and do and say leaves seeds in the mind, and the quality of those seeds determines the fruit of the seed, which is one's own experiences down the track, because our mind continues and is endless. Our mind is beginningless and endless, as nutty and as demented as that sounds to us. This is Buddha's observation. And every millisecond what I think and do and say basically programs me. Every millisecond what I am, the seed and fruit analogy, which is a really good one. I am experiencing every moment the fruits of my past programming, and I'm every second sowing seeds that will produce my future experiences. This is a very simple concept. It's not complicated English, but because it's such a different view, we can't hear it properly, naturally, you know. So the law of karma runs the universe. The law of karma, and it's a natural law. It's something we've got to really all the time think about. All the time. It's not how we think. If we're a materialist, philosophical materialists, we're still trying to work out the causes of everything. We haven't found a unified theory of the universe yet. Well, his view is a unified theory of the universe. You don't have to like it, but it absolutely is that. So the materialists are still working to find out the meaning of things yet. We're working very hard at it. We haven't got a proper view yet. See, it's not complete. The Christian view, they say God did everything, and that's okay. You know, but God is not supposed to tell us his plan. He's got a plan. We all know that God has a plan. So if you have faith in God, and I don't think I'm not criticising that view ever, not for a second. Buddhism agree with it, but you can really see the benefit if you have it properly. There's a superior being who is the source of everything, who is perfect, infinitely wise, infinitely compassionate. So clearly, and given that he created everything, he knows what's going on, so he's got a plan. So if you have complete faith in God, and I really respect that, but I would suggest very few people have that view. We second-guess God the whole time and moan and complain. If you got that view completely, you'd be like those Muslims. I remember this Muslim couple, years ago I read when one of those Air Asia flights went down in Malaysia, and the parents, their daughter died. How do you feel about the death of your daughter, they said. But people asked them, we are content. She belongs to God, and he has taken her back. That, I think, is profound. Mainly because look at the consequence. They're happy, they're content. They recognise God made the world, he's the boss, he's got a plan, he knows what he's doing. Thank you, God, get on with it. That's incredible. I have great respect for that. But it happens to be not Buddha's view, that's all. So what's Buddha saying? That we created the lot of it. And it's up to us to learn the plan and to be in charge of the plan. And we can be, that's his saying. That's what he's saying. So, my mind goes back and back and my mind goes on. And whatever happens in it every millisecond, like whatever is in my garden at this second, is necessarily logically the fruit of seeds that were put there before. Duh, you know. And what you put now will produce the fruits of the future. Duh. That's karma. Our life is our garden. It's a really simple analogy. But we're so opposite, we have so many views that it's not, we think someone put things in my garden. Who put weeds in my garden, you know? How come that happens to me? I have got nothing to do with it. I didn't ask to get born. It's not my fault. That's the view of ego. That's the philosophical view we all live. And don't blame your mummy, your Jewish mummy, or your Catholic mummy. That's the view of ego. We produce that view and we come into this life fully developed in it. Buddha says it's a ridiculous view. It's demented, schizophrenic. Whatever we experience, as Venerable says, is our own karmic appearance. This is pretty cosmic. This is meaning emptiness, really. So so there's 4 ways our karma ripens. 4 ways. It's the entire universe. One is the very kind of life you've got, whether you end up in a lion's body, an ant's body, or a human body. That's not random. No one put you there. You did it, babe. It's the fruit of your past actions. Second, within that being, the character of your consciousness, the character, your tendencies, your personality traits, whether you're a psycho, whether you're kind or loving, or whether you like to eat, your baby for breakfast, if you're a lion, whatever. Or whether you're compassionate like Mother Teresa, whatever. Those tendencies, they're not coming from mummy and daddy. They are not a function of genes. They are not coming from your parents. These karmic seeds were triggered several weeks before you were anywhere near mummy and daddy, when you were even in a previous life. They were triggered at the time of your past death. It's all described very detailed, the technicalities of it. The karmic seed that produces the fact that you'll find this, you go to the present mummy's human womb, that's already triggered at the time of your death. Because everything you think and do and say is stored in your little bank vaults. Nothing goes astray. And the way you die determines which seeds are triggered. So we can produce one of our virtuous, non-killing, strong, virtuous, non-killing karmic seeds. Practice, as Venerable Robina says, in the context of keeping vows of morality, and we'll talk about that. It's a really powerful way to make your life meaningful. One of those was triggered at the time of our past death, before we even stopped breathing. Second, all the seeds that produce our personality, whether you're Hitler or Mother Teresa. What are they? A bunch of habits, babe. Hardly rocket science. What's in your mind is a bunch of habits. Whose habits? Your habits. Not mummies, daddies, grandmas and monkeys, which is how we think. And not God's. Neither of those. Yours. Mine is very personal for the Buddha. It's very subjective, it's very experiential, it's very yours. The more you think about the Buddha's view and use it if you choose to, the more demented is the idea that someone can actually give you anger. That's the weirdest idea, or give you love. Very weird, very, very weird. Not so much even the view that a superior being, according to the Buddha, If you're on the bodhisattva, when we get into the bodhisattva path, we'll talk about. But one of the characteristics of a superior being, when you realise emptiness and you're on the bodhisattva path, is you can manifest your own mind in more than one body at a time. So in a sense, you are creating, but it is you. You can never become a regular person. That's the biggest thing. I had this discussion with my Catholic priest friend. If God is perfect, and then God makes me in his likeness, and then I get naughty, that's not a possibility for the Buddha's view. Because all delusions are gone. If you've burned the seed of all delusions, if you realise emptiness and cut the root of all delusions, it is utterly impossible that delusions can come back, because you've cut the seed. We'll go into that. So every this second, what we think and do and say ripens first as our own experiences. One, the type of rebirth we get. We won the lottery. Well, it's not technically winning the lottery, we worked hard for it. Our mind, due to morality ripening, due to not, especially not harming, in particular not killing, one of those karmic seeds was triggered that programmed us before we even stopped breathing, several weeks before Mummy and Daddy hopped into bed, or wherever they hopped. We already programmed it. Those lying there, having fun, we come barging in, okay? So don't blame your mum and dad. You get the mum and dad you deserve. Absolutely certain. You get the mum and dad you deserve. We created the cause due to intense karmic history with that mum and dad. Unbelievably powerful history from the past. We ran like a magnet to that mummy and daddy's egg and sperm. And that karma was triggered before you even stopped breathing. Already programmed. Third, the third kind of karma is called the first kind of karma is called the fully ripened result. Type of body, lion, ant, whatever realm of existence it might be. Second is the tendencies within that being's mind. Third is your experiences in your life. Now look at our lives. We're very, very social beings, are we not? We live in reference to others. Look at us. Since we're conceived, we've depended upon and live in reference to other sentient beings. And you just look at your life really simply. You can see up until now, you've had people and sentient beings and ants and cockroaches and humans either be nice to you or mean to you. It's really simple, it's embarrassing. And there's a spectrum there. Some people can be really mean, and some people can be really nice. We all know that. Well, this is called experiences similar to the cause. Similar to whose cause? Yours, babe. And karma's personal. So if your daddy's mean to you, because you are mean to him, I'm sorry. If he's kind to you, you are kind to him. You know, we just keep going back and forth. This is simple logic for the Buddha. It's not punishment and it's not reward. There's no punisher and there's no rewarder. It's a natural consequence of our individual actions. And because we all relate to each other, we do it to each other all the time, good and bad. Experiences similar to the cause. Your cause. To that person. Pretty much. Fourth, we don't throw it around in the sky, do we? We'll have an environment. Well, that's called environmental karma, even though the physical world impacts upon us, is the fruit of our past actions. So, for example, one example of one action called non-killing. So non-killing is it sounds like meaning not killing. No, it's a very intentional thing. That's what karma means. We'll go into it. So intentional non-killing, so it's a very powerful seed in the mind. That one will produce a human life, next track, two will produce the habit to keep not killing, three will produce the experience as a result of non-killing, which is you don't get killed and you won't die young, and four, your environment will be very delicious. The water will be non-polluted, the air will be lovely, the food will be nice, and even if you eat rubbish food, it'll nourish you. Environmental karma. So the main cause of why you've got a decent environment, whether it's the house you live in, or the country, or the neighbourhood, in particular here, that it's not polluted and not harmful to you, is the fruit of your non-killing. Two, how come you don't get killed or die young? The fruit of your not killing. Three, how come you don't want to kill? The fruit of your non-killing. Four, human birth, fruit of your non-killing. And every action, every thought, every thing of speech, every action of the body is any one of these, and they all work together, producing the person we become. We are the person that we moulded into this shape, and we can mould ourselves into any damn shape we like. So we better realise we're in charge of it. And given that we don't want suffering and do want happiness, that's the first level of practice. So you stop sowing the rubbish seeds and you make sure you sow the good seeds. Why? Because you want happiness and don't want suffering. It's so simple. It's so logical as a concept, Of course, taken upon the view of consciousness not being physical, this comes before this life, and then everything you think and do and say programs you. That's it. That's karma, in essence. 10 o'clock. Have some questions. What's the plan for lunch? When's lunch? 1, 2, when's lunch? 12. Oh. Do you want a tea break in between? Do you want a tea break between now and lunch? Is there a plan for a tea break?
It says teaching.
There is a tea break. Okay, we'll have some questions then first. Yes, Justin.
If Earth gets hit by a
Get
meteor,
round, Lonnie.
if Earth is blown up by a meteor,
Yes, collective karma of all the sentient beings in the universe. And we'll find another one. We've got millions of universes already planned in our little mind streams. Don't worry, we're never be ending.
so all the spirits and minds and entities,
Minds, consciousnesses, yeah. What about them?
they've been eradicated from here.
No, they haven't. The physical's been eradicated. The mind carries on. The second that body finishes, just as mind goes on. The second all the beings, and when it's a nuclear bomb of the entire universe ceases, all the trillions of consciousnesses, their bodies will be destroyed, but the consciousnesses planned by their own past karma will quickly take another rebirth. We're going to endlessly keep creating new universes. We create universes.
So this universe is thought by science to have an end point.
Yeah, of course it will.
Buddhism
Of
doesn't.
course it will. No, of course it does, Justin. The physical, you're talking about the physical world, baby. The physical world, yes, has an end point. Everything has an end point. This will die at some point. The flower will die. Your body will die. The physical world will have an end point. But the consciousnesses, which are not physical, will continue after that and take another, and due to past karma, will then take new bodies and create new universes. This is a product of our past lives. This universe we've created. All of what? Who the hell else? The dogs, the peanuts, the cats? No, that's the point, Justin. That's the point. The Buddha's making. There have been countless past universes, and there will be continuous new ones, all created by the actions of sentient beings. I can say the words here, it sounds cosmic. It's all in the literature, it's all explained, you know. Yes, we are the creators of hell realms and God realms and human realms and earthquakes and happiness. Yes. That's called karma. And Buddha says it's a natural law, and no one runs it. It's like gravity and botany. It runs itself.
So does that mean maybe science and God,
Science what?
the way we see science and the Christian God?
And a Christian God.
Yeah, God, you know, the one
God runs the show. God is He creates the universe and He punishes and rewards, doesn't He? That's the general view, speaking simply, isn't it?
it seems like an externality. It seems like they're out.
Exactly, that's right.
But with Buddhism, it's within us.
Exactly, that's exactly right, Justin. That's what the Buddha says. Any other questions? Yes, Andrew. I've got my cousin, my nephew and my boyfriend here. Go on. What's your question?
So I think I understand how it works, like let's say with depression and anxiety, but with things that are more extreme like bipolar or...
Yeah, okay, we haven't got to the mind yet. I want to get to this. We will get to this later. I'm talking about karma first and we'll talk about delusions. So the main one, we're looking at the past actions of karma while we suffer, and now we go to the delusions, which are the mind, which inform karma. And that's exactly when we'll discuss all that. Can you wait till then? Okay, I'll describe exactly. What else, people? Yes.
A delusion is a product.
Bit louder, darling.
A delusion is a product of attachment, or is attachment a delusion?
Yeah, a delusion. Yeah, that's the way the word is used. A delusion is just one of the many terms used to refer to our neurotic states of mind. They are delusions. They cause us to be delusional and to disturb and unhappy, but they themselves are delusions. That's the way they'd say it. Yes, exactly. That's right. We'll go into that later. Yes.
You were talking about...
Bit louder, darling.
You were talking about the 6 levels
Of existence, right. That's on different suburbs, yes.
Yeah. And sometimes Buddhism talks about, interfering forces and so on. And I'm just wondering where that fits.
A very negative being. They're like often the spirit realm. They'd be the spirits. The term spirits used for is they're not subtle physical energy, like their bodies are made of air really, we can't see them. But they've got a mind like we have, but their elements are manifested as air. I will describe it later. And some are very unhappy, very suffering, what they mean by demonic, that kind of thing. Lots of experiences of those. People get possessed, people hear voices and that kind of thing. They're all spirits. There's many kinds of these, and that's them.
And is that the same when Buddha was underneath the Bodhi tree in Bendigo?
And that's how we talk, yeah. I mean, it's a bit sort of, I don't know, yeah, that's how they talk about. Yeah, that's right. Something like that. Yeah. Yes. Yes is the answer. What else, people? Any other questions? Any other questions? Huh? No questions? Well, I better keep talking, shall I? So it's like 10:04. noon for lunch. We'll stop in a minute and have a break. So the thing is, whether we've heard this stuff 1 million times, and some of us have been hearing it all our lives, or whether we've never heard it, it's really important to act as if we haven't heard it before. And it's good for me, because I've said this about 1 million times, but I never get bored. I always get excited saying it, and then every time I say it, I go, oh, that's interesting, I get a bit more, you know. Otherwise it's boring. So act as if we've never heard it before. And then we'll keep it, and that's really part of what practice is. We know that. You can't just ride the bike once. You've got to ride 1 million times. Every time you get on the bike, you do it a bit better. Same with this. We're not used to thinking about thinking like that or listening to information, you know. So it's really important. And then to hear it, always to hear it experientially. What's the experiential implication of it? That's absolutely crucial. If there isn't one, it's a load of rubbish. Chuck it in the bin and give it right back to Buddha. It has to be experientially based, you know. It has to be able to have an implication experientially. That's the crucial point. So Justin's point is, you know, otherwise I find this is very helpful. There's different things you can, you know, there's this vast body, the vast body of knowledge. The way it's presented in Tibet, certainly in our tradition, Tsongkhapa in the 14th century framed the whole packaging the way he put it together. He called it the Lam Rim. Lam means path or way, Grim means like gradual or graded. So that's a quaint phrase. We hear it, but we don't really get the meaning. The Lam Rim, you know. Well, if you use a more modern term to translate it, I would say the best word is a course. So you know when you do a course, whether it's a weekend course or a 10-year course, you start at the early stuff, you go to the more middle stuff, and you go to the advanced stuff, and then you graduate. Grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, and you graduate. It's a really logical concept, especially in English. It's very clear. So that's, we know, and when we realise that, we know, if you know, like again, Justin studying horticulture, someone studying music, it's gradual. You know, the easy stuff first, junior school. When you go to high school, then university, then postgraduate. It's a really good way to package, to use these, you know, these analogies. I find these very helpful because we explain, it gives us the taste, you know. So here, with karma, we're talking junior school. The essence of junior school is abide by the laws of karma. Another way of putting, abide by the laws of ethics. So why? Why? We're describing here the first kind of suffering. So the main causes are the actions we do with our body and speech that harm others. That's why the bad things happen. We can deduce from that what happiness is the fruit of doing things and saying things with our body and speech that help others. This is a simple principle, you know. So we're describing here the suffering. But flip it over, you can describe happiness, same logic. So every millisecond of experiences of having bad things happen to us, a bad environment, people you know, dying young or getting killed, having a tendency to kill, or indeed a lower body, that's all the fruit of killing. And every action has these different, all have their own karmic results. And it's like a natural law. We're not the handiwork of a creator. There's no one there who's got a plan that makes it happen. I mean, I'm not trying to be rude about creators, but it's almost like this conspiracy theory, you know, we all think there's someone behind it all. No, our own selves do it. It's kind of a shocking concept. So I understand this a little bit. And so the Lam Rim is Tsongkhapa's package, and that we're describing through junior school. The essence, there's other things in junior school, but it culminates in this one. Atisha Centre leads us up to wanting to abide by the laws of karma. Why? I don't want suffering. That's it. It's the essence of it. It's the essence of it. I don't want suffering. So if you don't want suffering, you better know what kind of suffering you don't want. So one way he gets us to think about the lower realms. That may be too difficult for us, but we all know if you're going to be born a human, you're a human, you know you don't want to be punched, you don't want to be cheated on, you don't want to be lied to, you don't want to have food that harms you, you don't want to have a horrible environment. We know this is evident to us. So Buddha says, well, okay, if you know you don't want that, you've got to find the causes. What are the causes of it? Well, why someone doesn't believe your words, that's a third kind of karma called experiences similar to the cause of your having past life. You know, again, wow. So do I like this happening? No. Do I want it to happen in the future? No. Solution, stop lying. One instruction, don't lie. Do I want to be killed? No. Do I want to die young? No. Do I want to have an unhealthy body? No. Solution, a cause, killing others. Solution, stop killing. Do I want to get credit? Do I want to have people give me things? Do I want to have a nice house to live in? Do I have enough money to live? Yes. Solution, don't steal. Cause, not stealing. Solution for the future, don't steal. This is the logic of it. It's kind of uncomplicated. It's not punishment. It is not reward. There is no punisher. There is no rewarder. So the word environmental is kind of, it's hard for us to hear. It seems so abstract. You mean we created the universe? Yes, Buddha says. But I find this helpful. This is coming from postgraduate. This is like Tantra. And in the Tantric model, and we're going to discuss this when we talk about the death process, it's always very interesting to do that. It's coming from the Tantric way of seeing, the Vajrayana way of seeing the mind and the body. And they have this particular model. They talk about we've got gross consciousness, which is inextricably linked to the gross body. The bag of bones here. This is clear. Which is the sensory consciousness linked to the body. Very clear. Then we have subtle consciousness, which has got there's a subtler level of physicality. This is in the Tibetan medical system, it's the same. And this is coming from the Vajrayana, which came from the Hindus. They've got this subtle physical energy, a completely different model from ours. It's very clear. We've got this subtle nervous system, 72,000 subtle channels, through which course this prana or wind energy. The Hindus were the ones who came up with this amazing model from their great practitioners. And this is the basis of Tibetan medicine. There's 72,000 subtle channels in the body, and then coursing through with all these different wind energies, the prana, all different kinds, which are related to our health. It's a bit similar to the Chinese system. And along with those wind energies, inextricably linked to those wind energies, is our different states of mind. Now, this is the weirdest idea for us because we're convinced it's this thing in our skull, you know. We're talking about consciousness, this is mental consciousness, linked all different wind energies. So when you go to a Tibetan doctor, she'll feel your pulses, and she'll feel this imbalance of particular wind energy, which she knows is linked to your attachment. And that's why you're having panic attacks and anxiety. So she gives you this herbal medicine that calms your wind energies down, which in turn affects your mind, which calms your anxiety down. So there's this intimate relationship always between the body and the mind. The mind is not physical. The subtle channels and the wind are physical, subtle physical. And they have this intimate, inextricable relationship, and they have impacted upon each other very subtly all the time. Equally, when you practice, like as Lama Zopa says, in the Kala Chakra Tantra, the word Tantra means either a type of practice, postgraduate, or a text that describes the practices. And the word Sutra is junior school and high school, that's a teaching of the Buddha also, or a type of practice. So in the Kala Chakra Tantra, Lama Zopa says there are these detailed descriptions of this intimate relationship between internal and external energies, physical and mental, like I just described, the subtle level. And he said, for example, if you're angry, let's say the mind is angry, negative thoughts, angry, then it impacts naturally upon the wind energies that it's connected to. And so it pollutes your wind energies, which in turn karmically, which even now can cause sickness, and then eventually karmically for sure will cause you to have a sick body, which in turn even more, over more long time, lifetimes, this is a really big picture, impacts upon the external elements and disturbs them, so you get born where there are earthquakes, you get born where it's polluted, you get born where the physical elements harm you. This is not coming from a creator, it's not merely coming from itself, it's all connected to minds. Minds and how they function over countless eons create the entire universe. It's just a natural law, Buddha says. It's a natural law. There's no conspiracy theory. There's no person who's doing it. There's no one hiding behind and running the show. We do it ourselves. I find that quite helpful, the wind energy business. So equally, if you practice having positive thoughts, just positive thoughts, because those thoughts are connected to the wind energies, you can purify your mind. It's logical, if you take this view of karma, you know. Not to mention your speech. Speech is is the wind energy itself, isn't it? Speech is air. So harsh speech, negative speech, lying speech pollutes your wind energies, causes sickness eventually. Equally, pure speech, valid speech, wise speech, kind speech, mantra, powerful speech purifies your wind energies and can benefit others. It's very organic, you know. So, we have to look first level suffering. We can deduce pretty quickly that we forget the lower realms. We know we don't like getting punched, don't want to be killed, don't want to be lied to, don't want to be not believed. When you check, what's the cause? Oh, lying. Do I want it for the future? No, stop lying. That's the instructions. That's junior school grade 1 entry-level Buddhism. Buddha has a list of 10 don'ts. He suggests we don't kill. Why not? Why not, Buddha? Well, honey, because it's going to cause you to get killed. Oh, all right, I better not kill. Not to mention keep killing, not to mention have other things happen. Don't steal, he says. The 3 of the body, 4 of the speech. First 7 are body and speech. Very logical. So don't kill, he says. Don't take the ungiven. Tibetan word for stealing, very direct, you can't escape it. Don't take the ungiven. And don't jump on the wrong partner. Basic, you know. Or don't steal someone else's. Or let's take the wrong one. So don't do things to harm sentient beings with your body. The next 4 are the speech. So we don't think speech is important in our culture. We think we can say what we like, you know. But the Buddha says everything we think and do and say puts so seeds in my mind. Forget the impact that it has on others. We're talking here mainly the consequences for ourselves. And this is a crucial point about what morality is, what ethics is. If I'm a Christian, God says don't kill. Why not, God? Because I say so. Nothing wrong. That's not what Buddha's saying. Same as your mum. Don't do that. Why not? Because I say so. We get it. That's not Buddha's answer. It's a huge difference. He says don't kill as well. He says don't kill. Why not, Buddha? Well, honey, guess what? You want to get killed? Do you want to be harmed? Do you want to have lousy food? Do you want to, be harmed by the environment? No, well then don't kill, babe. The first level is for your own sake. We're not discussing the harm on others yet. It's for your own sake. This is the point, it's mind-blowing. The Buddha says everything we think and do and say first has impact, brings consequences to me. There's no concept of this dualistic idea of punishment and reward. It's demented for the Buddha. We need more kids, yeah. We've got to grow up, he says. We're in charge. In just the same way, if you think that cancer will cause you to, is the result of your doctor punishing you, so you go home and she's not there, so out come the mulberries, I won't get cancer. I mean, that's ridiculous. It's a demented idea. We know it's illogical. Buddha's the same when it comes to actions. Doesn't matter who sees you do it. You bring your own consequences to yourself. They've got their own natural logic. My mother used to say, virtue has its own rewards. That's exactly Buddha's view. This really takes time, because we have the dualistic view. We want to be good girls and good boys. We want to be seen to be good, and we don't want to be seen to be naughty. That's the dualistic view that we have invented. We've invented that view, but it says it's dualistic, it's nonsense. We can help in the beginning, because I say so. It works when you're a kid. When my mother told me when I was 3 not to go near the fire because she says so, can you imagine here I am nearly dead, still not going near the fire because Mummy said so? You would hope I'd grown up by now and know the real reason, because it will burn me. That's the Buddha's deal. It makes us to become grown up, accountable, responsible, in charge of ourselves, not victims, not babies, not blaming. This is intense. This is heavy, juicy stuff. We're the boss.